Okay, hello everybody. Greetings to everybody and welcome to lesson 6. Thank you for tuning in again. So we're still on vectors and scalars. Right? So in lesson 5 we did the tail to head method, okay? And um, I said that we're gonna do an example. Okay. So I want us to get into example 1. Okay. Example 1. So we're gonna do an example together using the tail to head method, okay? Using the steps, the step by step procedure, okay? Until step 6 here. Remember the last lesson we talked about the steps that you follow, right? Head to tail method of vector addition, step by step. So the 6 steps here, that's what we're going to follow in order to get the resultant vector, right? So let me write down the question. So you can copy the question in your answer book. So the question says what? Use the graphical use the graphical head to tail method to determine method to determine to determine to determine the resultant force. To determine the resultant force on a rugby of a rugby player if two players player if two players if two players on his team are pushing him forwards with forces of F1 with forces of F1 and F2 equals to 90 newtons respectively. So this is two players, okay? They are pushing forward, okay? And two players and two players from the opposing team, from the opposing team, from the opposing team, are pushing him backwards. Pushing him backwards with forces F3 equals to 100 newtons and F4, which is equal to 65 newtons respectively. So this is the question that we have, okay? So there are two players which are pushing forwards with 60 and 90, and then two players from the opposing team are pushing backwards with 165 respectively. So then so you remember from the steps what we do. Step 1, they say what? You must draw a rough sketch of the situation. And then step 2, you must choose a scale and include a reference direction. So we draw a rough sketch of the situation. Okay? Okay, so let's go to the next page. So for step 1, okay, so let's get to a solution here. So we draw a rough sketch of the situation. So what we have roughly is the what? Is the two players, okay? So it's one player pushing that way and another player pushing the other way. Then we have two players from the opposing team. And they are pushing in the opposite direction. See? So this is roughly what is happening, okay? And then step 2, okay? Step 2, we must decide on a scale, okay? We must decide on a scale. So in this case, we're going to say 0.5 centimeters. Okay, let's say 1 centimeter equals to 20 newtons. Okay. And we can say to the right is east, and to the left is west. Okay, this is the direction that we chose. And then step 3. Okay, so step 3, this is where we must draw the vectors. Okay, so they said to the right, there are 2 players to the right, and F1 is 60. Okay, so if 1 centimeter is 20, it means F1 is going to be 3 centimeters long, isn't it? Yeah, the ruler. So F1 so for F1 we'll have 3 centimeters. So we take 3 centimeters, yeah, in that way. Okay, and then F2, we check here. F2 is 90. So it's going to be 4.5 centimeters. So we go from here, and then we take F2 again. And then we go another. We go another 4.5 centimeters. So we have an arrowhead here, and we also have another arrowhead here. So this is F1, and this is F2. Okay. So this is 4.5 cm, and this is 3 cm. So, and then we must do for the 2 opposing players. Okay. Um, so it's 165 respectively. So then it means 100 is going to be 5 centimeters. See? So 100 will be 5 centimeters. So we go to 4.5, then to somewhere there. So it's in the opposite direction. And then 65 is going to be 3.5 centimeters. So this is F3, which is 5 centimeters. So 65 is going to be 65. So it's going to be 3.25 centimeters. Okay. So if we look here, what's going to happen? It's going to be 3 plus 4.5 equals to 7.5. And then the other way, in the opposite direction here, we have 5 plus 3.25 equals to 8.25. So then 7.5 minus 8.25 equals to how much? Equals to negative. So should use a calculator then. Negative 0. Yes, 0.75 centimeters. So then the 0.75 should be converted. Because we said the 0.75 then should be converted. We use the scale. 1 equals to 20. Okay. So 1 centimeter equals to 20 newtons. So then 0.75 will be equal to how much? So we take this, we multiply that, okay? It's going to be this, so that is going to be 7.5, it's going to be 15. So it's going to be negative here. So it's going to be negative 15 newtons. Okay, so it's a negative, meaning it's a negative vector, meaning it's in the opposite direction of what we chose here. We said east is positive, and we said west is negative because we subtracted the west. Okay, so it means that the resultant vector here is 15 newtons west, or you can say the resultant vector is 15 newtons to the left. So that's what it is. Okay, that is how you get the what? The resultant vector in this case. So I hope the process was not so. Do not become confused here on step 3. This thing ends here because the other steps are done within step 3. You see, obviously you must add one vector after the other, starting from the head end, and then after that, the other vector can be is the resultant vector is from the tail of the first vector until the tail and until the head of the last vector. That's what it is. Or you can find it this way, isn't it? You can add those and then you minus. You see? So yes. So that's it for it. For example 1. And I think let's leave it here for lesson 6, okay? You can write down everything that you thought was helpful. I just wanted to show you the tail to head method. So in lesson 7, we'll do example 2. Okay. In the next lesson, lesson 7. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Leave your questions in the comment section, please. And we will. I hope you tune in for lesson 7. Stay focused.